All right, let's look at module number 7 and see what we have to do for this module. Back to Blackboard. I'm going to hit modules, and then page layout basics is the title for module number 7. And again, really the whole module here in chapter is really all about how do we place elements on our page, right? Or where can we place them? Can we move them? How do I get things to move around where I want them? So we'll talk about things like float, positioning, right? Then we look at 2-column layouts, right? Another way we can lay out the content as opposed to just one column across the browser. We can now have 2 columns and perhaps put a navigation in one, right? We'll also take a look at how we can change the way we create our navigation. So for going forward, from now on, we'll look at redesigning the way we write our navigation, okay? So far, the navigation has been built by using a nav element and then a bunch of anchors separated by spaces, right? Well, we really want to create a list for those because that's really what it is. Any link that has, or list that has more than one is a linked list, okay? And so we're going to use an unordered list, right, to kind of redesign our lists, our link lists, or list of links, okay? And so we can do that in 2 ways, vertical or horizontal, by using CSS to make some changes to the LIs or ULs, okay? All right, we're also going to take a look at pseudo classes, okay? Think of these as sub-properties of an element, okay? Where I have an anchor element, okay? And when I hover over, or when I look at a link, it's currently by default what color? Typically blue, right? That's kind of the standard that we think about when we think of a link. What about after I've clicked it or I've been to that link before? What color is it then? Purple, right? Now, those are the 2 colors we're used to seeing. There's actually another color, red, that we don't really see too often anymore because our machines work fairly faster than they used to in the past, and that's called the active link. It's the color between the click and that you've been there before, right? So it's blue, you haven't clicked it, you click it, right? You've gone there, and it's that time in between, okay? It's called the active state, okay? It's red. We don't see it too often. Very, very rarely do we see that color anymore. The point is, we can change those colors, and we can change them by using something called a pseudo class. Okay? All right, and then the last thing we're going to talk about are sprites. Okay, not the soft drink. Okay, we combine CSS with image sprites. Okay, to create essentially an environment that creates interactivity for us in some cases. Okay, but the idea is this image sprite. And who knows what an image sprite is? First of all, yeah, Ellen. Okay, so we got one file that contains multiple graphics, right? And so we typically put those graphics in some sort of grid where now using CSS, I can display whichever graphic within that file I want, okay? This is used on the web all over the place. It's a very old technique. It's been around for a long time, and I'll show you as we go through the PowerPoints what, as a sample, okay, what I mean. So instead of loading individual graphics, okay, we load one file, and that one file contains the graphics we need, and we simply use CSS to display which one, right, of those graphics we want, where we want them. This is typically used when you have a lot of repetitive graphics on your page. What's repetitive on your page, typically, or I should say on your site? What's repetitive, graphically speaking, on your site? Thank you. What else? If you're using graphical navigation, yeah. What about social network icons? Those are usually on multiple pages. Any other type of graphic that is repetitive, okay, you would use in an image sprite. And so we match the image sprite with the CSS, we combine those, and we create CSS sprites. Okay? And we'll go through an example in this chapter, so it's really cool. Okay? A very simple one, but now you get the idea how complex they actually can be, and I'll show you a sample. Okay. All right, so that's really the gist of the chapter or the module itself. It is chapter number 7. Please go to the companion website. I believe there is at least one update, so do that when you can before you start reading the chapter. Key concepts are there, of course. Tutorials, yes, we have more tutorials. I think basically almost every module has tutorials except for maybe 2, and we already did one. Module 3 did not have any tutorials. Let's see. Your lab files, of course, and let's see. The lab software, I think we talked about. If you're not using something more or better than a text editor, I recommend that you start doing so. And then we have our quiz as our second assignment. 10 minutes, 10 questions, open book, open web. It's just not a party quiz, right? You do it on your own. Okay. All right, and then the last assignment for Module 7 is your wireframe. The wireframe comes at a pretty good time in the semester because it's right in the middle. And that's really where we are. We're at midterm, which means that when I'm done grading Module 6, I will provide you in the grade book a column that says midterm grade, like thus far, right? And it'll be a percentage. And so this will give you some sort of gauge as to whether you need to make some decisions or not in this class. Okay? All right, so wireframe it is, and this module will have to complete one of those. So the wireframe is essentially a layout, right? It's a graphic of your layout. Grayscale, simply lines that mark out boxes and rectangles, and then those boxes and rectangles have descriptions in them, right? What kind of information is going to be in this particular container, right? And that's really what we're looking for. We're not looking for any content whatsoever. I'm not looking for names of your links. I'm not looking for pictures. I'm simply looking for information that will be in that space, right? That wireframe, that rectangle, that square, right, that's throughout your page. So you'll have to come up with some sort of layout that you think is appropriate for your website. You'll actually have to come up with 2 layouts for your website. One for the desktop version. So somebody coming to your website, your home page, okay, via a desktop or a laptop. And then you'll have to come up with a layout for a phone version, a mobile version, okay, specifically a phone. Right? So what would that layout look like, and how would it differ from a desktop version? I'll tell you right now, it will be different. Right? They will not be the same. Okay? So you create 2 wireframes of the home page, one for the desktop, one for your phone. Okay? And that's basically it. Now, I've provided you with a sample of a wireframe to which I expect the detail. You can also go to Chapter 3. I think we talked about wireframes in Chapter 3. But Chapter 3 gives you a real simple version of a wireframe. I'm expecting something a bit more. Okay? A little bit more detailed than the one in Chapter 3. Okay? So you can follow the PDF sample I provided. Of course, you're not going to copy this because you're going to have your own layout. Okay? But as you can see, it's shades of grays, right? It's rectangles and squares, providing me and you and your client an idea of what type of content will be on this page and where will it go. So notice, of course, it's a logo. It doesn't actually have the company name or a graphic of your logo. It simply states that, yep, your logo is going to appear in the upper left-hand corner. Notice the links. It says nav1, nav2, nav3, nav4. It's not the actual names of your links. We don't really know those yet. Right? We have an idea about those. We did that in the planning analysis sheet. We're not 100% sure, okay, of what they might be. Okay? So I don't want to see the actual names. I simply want to see that the fact that you're going to have links and how many you might have. Right? What else? A photo, right? So now I know exactly that rectangle is a photo, and then if we read the little caption below, it says photo headline and caption area functions for multiple photos. So what that's telling me is that there's going to be some sort of photo headline, right, describing the photo, right, and then it'll have some sort of buttons, I presume, that will take me from one photo to the next, right? That's basically what's saying there. Up at the top there, main headline. So this might be the main headline of your site, right, of the page there. And then underneath it, it says supporting text and website overview, letting users know what they can do and find on this website. Perfect. That tells me exactly what content I should expect, right, to see there. I don't want to see the actual content. I just want to be told what I might find there, right? Now, I believe this particular sample is from a maybe travel agency or something of that nature, because you can start to see that they talk about guide feature or guide name, like this would be a particular individual that does the guided tours perhaps, right? And they'll have perhaps maybe their photos, right? And some other information about the guide themselves. Not really sure exactly, right? So we have to kind of take this with a grain of salt and say, okay, I wonder what they were thinking about. But this just gives you a general guide. You have to come up with your own, right, layout for your website. Does that make sense? And this is the detail that I'm expecting. So I will not expect to see a layout that simply has, or a wireframe that simply has 4 boxes, one after the other, one saying it's the header, one saying it's the nav, one saying it's main, and one saying it's footer. That helps no one. Not you, not me, not your clients. It needs to be much more descriptive than that. Right? Now, how do you submit this? Exactly the same way you would submit your sitemap. Use one of the 2 ways, right? A tool of your choice, or use Glyphy, and then, of course, provide me with the URL. So I think the important thing is here that you're going to be creating 2 wireframes for your home page, one for the desktop version, one for the mobile version. Okay. You are not required to create a responsive website for your project. I just want you to start thinking about what it might look like, right, if your website were to go responsive. Okay. Make sense? Okay. Sounds like it does. Any questions about Mod 7? Yeah. Yep. Get back to it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, no worries. Let's bring that up. Come up with what? I'm not sure what your question is. I'm sorry. Yep. Yeah, you're basically going to tell me what I should see there when we actually build out the site, right? What kind of information would be there? Like you're going to basically categorizing it for me and saying, okay, well over here I'm going to have some supporting text and an overview of the site. Oh, okay, great. Now I understand what I should be seeing there, and the customer and the client would be as well, right? Because they're wondering, okay, well what's going to go there? Right? Yeah. I believe they might be little graphics. So these might be highlights of perhaps a tour or something, or maybe a graphic. I'm not 100% sure, but remember this sample, I believe, is from a like travel agency. So yeah, so I don't want you to copy and think that all yours have to say guide in front of it, because this is specific to that particular website, right? Yours may say something else. Yeah, of course. Yeah. We're not including any banner ads, but that's just they're just indicating that this is where a banner ad would be placed, right, when they build out the site. Yeah. So perhaps the client has ad space and wants to put some ads there, whether it's its own or perhaps other companies, right, that maybe they're selling their travel packages for, right? They might be advertising maybe different travel destinations or something. The point you should, regardless of whether we're doing banner ads or placing this, is that it's a spot that will contain content, and it's simply being described as to what will be there. Yeah. However you want to do it. I mean, you just got to give me the link to it. So, yeah, it doesn't matter to me. Because your page may not be this wide. Maybe it's wider. I really don't know. So, in this case, they just decided to go with that. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can give me 2 links, one to each one, or give me 1 link, and they're both on the same, right, the same link that you provided me. Yeah, I could really care less. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. Just so you provide me 2. That's what I care about. Yep. Now, if you're not sure what your mobile version should look like, well, one, you could use your own phone and go to some websites and see what the difference is between one that you go to on a desktop and one that's on your phone, right? Or you can go back to Module 3, and I believe the companion website has a couple of links to websites that actually have samples of what pages look like from a desktop all the way down to a phone version, right? So you can kind of get an idea. I can give you a hint that it's going to be 1 column. It will not be multiple columns, which is typically what's going to be different from your website that you probably create on a desktop version. Okay. And different from the sample, of course. All right, any more questions? Those are great, thanks. About the project, wireframe. All right. Fantastic. Okay. Let's go to here. I think we covered this.